welcome to today's video where I'm going to be running you through my ultimate booking guide to Disney World. This is all of my top tips broken down into 5 subcategories, and I hope that this video is helpful. I just want to put a little disclaimer out there that I'm not trying to brag in any way saying that I went to Disney World. I'm not saying this is the perfect way to run your trip, and I'm also aware that obviously lockdown is currently happening, and at the time of filming this Disney World is closed, so I'd just like to say that I hope this video helps in booking your future trip, whether you are rebooking or booking for the first time. No matter what Disney experience you have, I'm sure they will try to make it as magical as possible. With that being said, I hope this video helps you, and let's get straight into it. My first tip is prioritise. If you are travelling from abroad, there are 3 main things that you want to look into before looking at anything Disney related. The first one being your passport. If you already have a passport, make sure that it's in date for the start, duration and end of your trip. Whether you are then stranded in America or can't even get to America because your passport wasn't in date, neither of those are a good situation to be in, and you definitely want to make sure that that's all sorted before you go. If you don't have a passport, get all of that done before booking any Disney stuff, because you don't want to run into an issue with it and having booked all of your trip and then not be able to go, because that would be a real shame. The second thing is travel insurance. This isn't something that everybody decides to get, but Chris and I definitely wanted to, just so that we knew we had that cover if we needed it. You can get many different policies. We looked at different comparison websites and tried to pick the best policy for us. If you are taking a lot of camera equipment and things like that with you, you can actually get gadget cover on some of them as well, so that might be something to look into. Just go on comparison websites, flick through a few policies, have a look into them and pick the one that suits you and your party best. And the third most important thing to do before you go is to apply for your visa. Whether you get a full visa or an ESTA, either one is definitely needed because you cannot get into the country without it. So make sure you have your visa sorted. Instead of getting a full visa where you have to go to an embassy and have to go through a long application, Chris and I managed to get ESTAs. So an ESTA is basically a mini version of a full visa where you can apply for one if you are going on a leisurely trip. It lasts for 2 years and it's $14. So it's a lot cheaper than applying for a full visa, and it will last you for that 2 years, and it's perfect for something like a Disney World holiday. Once you've obtained all of that important information, I would recommend printing copies of it. Chris and I had a folder each that contained all of the documents that were really important for this trip and actually proved that we were going on it, just in case anybody questioned us. We each had a folder so that if we got separated, then we would both have a copy of all of the documents so that we could prove we were there for the purpose of going to Disney. You can obviously keep all of these documents on your phone, however I prefer to print it just in case my phone dies or it gets lost or anything like that. I know that I've got that hard copy on me. My second tip is budgeting. Make sure you set and discuss a budget with every member of your party that you are travelling with. This is a really important step to make sure that everyone in the party is on the same page, because you don't want somebody wanting to go to this fancy restaurant and then someone else saying they can't afford it on the day and then everything being really awkward. It's just better to air that out first and be completely honest about your budget. If you can't afford to do too much, then don't, because while it is an amazing experience and you are on holiday, it's not worth going over your spending limit by thousands of pounds or whatever, because that is Disney World. That's very easy to do, trust me. Obviously with a budget as well, allow yourself some leniencies, because when you are there might be something that you really want to buy. My thing for that was this little ring that I really wanted, and because it was my 21st and it was such a monumentous trip, I decided to buy it, and I didn't beat myself up over it because it wasn't a more expensive ring than I would normally purchase. But it's Disney World. You're on holiday, you are allowed to splash out a little bit, so be lenient with yourself and your budget, but don't go over the top and try and do everything and see everything, because 1, you won't be able to, and 2, it'll probably make you feel worse about the trip if you are constantly thinking about going over budget. So just make sure that you set that beforehand so that you don't have to worry about it as much when you're out there. Chris and I actually had almost weekly meetings at one stage, not just to discuss budget, but to discuss everything related to the trip. But the budget was one of the very first things that we actually talked about, which I'm so glad we did, because it made everything so much easier and we knew where we stood with everything and were completely honest with each other the whole booking process. So I would definitely recommend doing that because that really helped us. There are a few things that you might want to consider when it comes to budgeting, such as your travel expenses, your accommodation, your park tickets, your food, any gifts that you might want to buy, or just any extras in general, like if you have children, they might want toys. One of my biggest recommendations to you for this is buy things before you go. The ears that I'm currently wearing I actually purchased on Amazon before we went, and that was really helpful for me because I actually have two pairs, one of which are a little bit flimsy and I wasn't too keen on, and I also bought these. These are my favourite, hence why I'm wearing them in all of these videos. I just couldn't justify spending $30 on a pair of ears that I would only wear in Disney World, hence why I decided to go for a ring instead that was a little bit more expensive but something I could wear every day, and it's a more subtle hint to Disney, but I literally just couldn't justify it, so I'm glad I bought these beforehand. Obviously look around and try and find ones that you like, but you can get different variants. There's a load of Etsy shops that make custom ears as well, so do look into that. Another thing to maybe think about purchasing beforehand would be a sort of a special toy for your child. Obviously it's Disney World, they're going to go in all of these shops and see all these amazing toys everywhere, and if they were anything like me when I was a child, they will probably choose the most expensive. One way of trying to combat that is buying them a really special toy beforehand. So say they love Frozen, buy them an Olaf or something to take with them, and it can go on the plane with them and be like their little Disney trip mascot. Which I think is a cute idea and something that I would try out if I had kids to take. But that might just be something to consider to make your life a little bit easier when it comes to budgeting. Another big point with budgeting is your accommodation. We stayed in a Disney resort, and that's because there were quite a few perks to doing this. One, we just booked our trip through Disney World, so we had the flights, hotel and accommodation all booked and ready and did it all in one go, which was super easy. But there were a lot of perks to just staying in Disney World. You have access to the Magical Express service, which, if you aren't aware, is a bus that takes you from Orlando International Airport to your resort, and then on the last day from your resort back to the airport. That service was really useful to us because once we had booked our trip to stay in Disney World, that service was automatically booked for us. So we didn't have to do anything, we didn't have to think about how we were getting from the airport to the hotel. It was all done for us, we didn't have to pay any extra, and it was completely included. Definitely look into the Magical Express service if that's something you're worried about, because we weren't sure how we were going to do that, and that just made it all so much easier. We didn't even have to book it. They do everything for you. The other thing to consider with transport and staying in Disney is the park buses. These buses run from the front of your hotel every single day to and from Disney World. They come and go at different times, and you can just hop on a bus and go to whichever park you like. This was really, really handy because when we wanted to come back for a little break during the day, we didn't have to think about paying for an Uber to come backwards and forwards, because that total can add up pretty quickly. When we took a day away from Disney and went to Universal, we actually found that we really missed that service, because during the day we could have come back and charged up our devices and everything and then gone back to Universal. But we decided that we didn't want to pay for the extra Uber charges, so we didn't do that. It's definitely something that was a big bonus for us, because if you don't have it, the total can mount up so quickly. When you are staying with Disney, you also get access to Fastpasses earlier than everyone else, which I will come on to in a minute. You also have extra magic hours, which are hours when the park is closed to the rest of the public, and you can go in an hour before it opens and an hour after it closes on certain days for different parks. That's something we didn't really take advantage of, but I feel like we should have, because you can get some really cool photos when the parks are quieter. The other thing that you get if you stay with Disney is a little magical extras card, which can give you discounts at certain places around Disney World. So you can get like 15% off of Joffrey's Coffee, for example. Tip number 3, shop around. Make sure that you are looking into different deals and packages that you can get when you are going to Disney World. There are so many on offer with so many different varieties of bonuses that you can get, so make sure that you find the package that's right for you. You can get packages on almost anything to do with Disney World, whether it's park tickets or rooms. Chris and I had a package deal that included 14 days worth of park tickets for the price of 7, so our park tickets were essentially half price. Our package also included Memory Maker, which if you didn't have have included in the package would be an extra $200 on top of your original price. So for this was really helpful. If you aren't aware of what Memory Maker is, basically there are various photographers placed around the parks, and you can go up to them, scan your magic band, they will take your photo, and you can either have a card or use the My Disney Experience app and get these photos. I'll put some examples of the Memory Maker photos that we had taken on the screen now. So this is what they look like. As you can see, they are professionally taken photos and definitely better than the selfies that we were taking. Tip number 4, advanced planning. This one is super important when it comes to a Disney World holiday. You need to be thinking about what you're going to be doing on your trip way ahead of actually going on your trip. Planning a rough itinerary for your trip is really going to help you when it comes to booking a trip to Disney World, because there are a few things that you can book in advance that will make a huge difference. The first one being dining reservations. Dining reservations are available to book 180 days in advance from your trip. So once that 180-day mark comes around, you want to be ready, knowing which restaurants you want to go to on which days in which parks, because that's going to really help you in getting to the restaurants that you actually want to go to. You can also book Fastpasses in advance, so if you are staying at a Disney World resort, you get to book Fastpasses 60 days in advance from your trip. And if you aren't staying at Disney Resort and just have a normal ticket into the parks, you can still book Fastpasses. However, you can book them 30 days in advance. So staying in Disney World gives you an extra 30 days, but I would highly recommend pre-planning your trip, because these dining reservations and Fastpasses make a huge difference. When it comes to booking your dining reservations and Fastpasses, if you have specific places that you want to go to on specific days, don't be disappointed if there aren't any reservations left, because you still have a chance at booking them. If you keep checking those bookings every single day, you may end up lucky and being able to book a slot. I say this because Chris and I booked our trip to Disney World later than the 180-day mark, so we had already missed the dining reservations. One of the big things for me to do during this trip was go to the Be Our Guest restaurant in Magic Kingdom, which is Beauty and the Beast themed. I didn't think I was going to end up being able to do this, because by the time we had booked our trip, that reservation had already gone and there was none left for the entire 2-week trip we were there. Every day I checked that app to see whether or not I could get a reservation. Lo and behold, a week or two before our trip came up, there was a slot for breakfast in the morning on my birthday, and it couldn't have been more perfect timing, and we were so lucky to be able to get that. So definitely keep looking and keep checking, because you never know, it might pop up. The other thing with Fastpasses is that once you have used up your 3 for that day, you can then get more. So if you go to all 3 that you have planned, you can then get more Fastpasses, because it will allow you to book another one, whether it's through the app or whether it's at the front when you first enter the parks. You may still be able to get another one. When you're planning your trip, go online and look at free brochures and things that you can order. Try and get as much information about Disney World as possible. Watch YouTube videos, which, I mean, props to you. I'm guessing you're already doing that if you're watching this. Get different people's ideas, get different takes on it, because so many people will have so many different top tips for you. So try and get as many of those as you can to have the most amazing Disney trip you possibly can. The final thing that really helped me with advanced planning was having the My Disney Experience app. This app is amazing. You can book your dining reservations, your Fastpasses, you can create an itinerary, you can change Fastpasses and dining reservations through it as well. My favourite thing about it is the map. Whoever decided to put a map on it is a genius. We didn't get lost once, because you have the app on your phone, you have a little blue dot that tells you where you are, and you can follow that around the parks, and it's so much easier. So definitely look into getting that app. And my 5th and final top tip for Disney World, the one that I would recommend to absolutely anybody who is planning a trip. Number 5, plan breaks. I promise you that no matter how robust you think you may be against the heat or the tiredness or the walking, you will need a break at some point. You are still on holiday while you're doing all of this. You are there to have fun and to enjoy it to its max. We found we needed breaks every single day. We did 1 full day in the park without a break, and that just happened to be my birthday, because we had too much planned that we didn't plan any time to just stop during the day. We ended up battling a bit of heat stroke through that, because we were both really struggling. We had to sit in the shade for an hour after watching Festival of Fantasy, which, if you don't know, is a parade that happens outside Magic Kingdom, and you are sat outside in the blazing heat in the middle of the day, and it was too much for us. So we literally had to have a break for an hour in the shade, and it was just crazy. Every day from then on we had a break. This was so helpful because it just reset us. We got to go back to the room with the air conditioning or chill by the pool and chill out. We generally dip out from the parks during the busiest and hottest time, which was midday, so we would come back to the resort, make some lunch and just chill out basically. Whether you are having a break from Disney by going shopping or just having a break from the parks by chilling in your room, definitely plan time to do that. If you have kids, they are still your kids when you go to Disney World, so if they have regularly scheduled naps, that probably won't change when you're at Disney World, so you need to consider that when you are planning your schedule as well. Don't just take breaks during the day, take breaks during the week as well. So we actually had Thursdays as our sort of day off from the parks. This worked out really well for us because we made the most of going out shopping and then going to the parks in the evening to watch a show, or going to play mini golf instead and getting away from the crowds. Doing that actually really helped us, and I would definitely recommend doing it. Apologies if the angle has changed, my camera just died, but the final thing I wanted to say is also don't discount the water parks when you are planning your breaks, because they're a great way to cool down in the heat as you are just constantly in water. You can also dry off really quickly because of the heat. They are so much better when it comes to wait queues because you literally don't have to wait any time at all. I think the most we queued was for one ride and it was for about 20 minutes. All the rest were like 5 minutes, if that. It was great. I'd highly recommend it, and a lot of people generally discount the water parks because they aren't the main feature of going to Disney World, I suppose, but when you are trying to see and do everything in Disney World, it's just too much. No matter how much you try, you won't be able to do it all, so remember that you are on holiday, you are there to have fun, but just take a breather. Don't force yourself to do everything because it won't happen, and it's much more exciting to just have fun with it, I think. And that is everything. They are my top tips for going to Disney World. Sorry this video was a little bit longer than planned, but I hope that it's given you some inspiration and helped you when looking to book your trip to Disney World. Obviously when you go back now it may be a little bit different because of the current pandemic that is going across the world, but hopefully you can still enjoy the experience all the same and have a bigger and better trip than ever before. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below letting me know some of your top tips for Disney World, because I'm sure myself and a few other people watching this video would appreciate that. I'm going to be filming a couple more Disney videos, but if you do want to see those, then do subscribe and hit the notification bell to get a notification every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Bye!